we had an opportunity, to the bill, we had an opportunity to talk about this in committee, so I won't ask any questions of the sponsor, but just wanted to touch on a couple of points for the benefit of the membership here. Some questions that were asked of the governor's staff and the sponsors and some of the supporters of this legislation. And it raises several concerns. As was brought up previously, you know, what is the definition of rich? Many of you will remember previously, in previous General Assemblies, your own Speaker of this chamber brought up a millionaire's tax, and that was starting at $1 million of income, which would add 3%. Many of you co-sponsored that bill. Many of you voted on that and supported that. Now, all of a sudden, the definition of rich has changed in these latest rates. That's an extremely big concern, and we've already seen, just in the arguments over the last month and the different proposals that have come into place, a multitude of different rates that have been structured. And this just points to the problem of this type of rate structure being introduced and not having any constitutional protections within the legislation or within the previously approved constitutional amendment change. Just to highlight a couple of problems with this legislation. Many of you have seen these rates, and you know that it does give some potential cost savings to those individuals in certain income brackets, but arbitrarily, at $250,000 in combined income, the tax rate almost jumps up 3%. No incremental increase, no adjustment for an increase in income. There's just automatically at a certain amount, boom, a certain 3% interest. And then, of course, at the $1 million rate, those individuals' businesses are penalized for their entire income. They don't even get the benefit of the lesser rates for the lesser income. I also asked in committee of the governor's staff their definition of rich, because apparently another provision of this legislation defines rich as those that make $60,000. The reason I say that is I point to the child tax credit. For a family of $60,000 income, the tax credit starts to fade away. How can that be? How can that be justified as a wealthy family so that we're going to get rid of the savings that you potentially say that families will have? Additionally, there's a P-tax proposal on the savings and the property tax, which really amounts to next to nothing. If we look at our analysis, and I think your analysis agrees also, most families may save anywhere between $6 and $60, certainly not much of a tax savings that many proponents of this are bandying about, that all taxpayers will save money. Certainly a disservice, I think, in this overall argument on how these rates are set up. The other thing that was asked in committee is, where does this $3.5 billion in new revenue goes? One of the answers we received was, well, $200 million will go towards paying down our pension liability. $200 million out of $3.5 billion, and we have no plans for where these dollars will go. This is just a poorly structured package. It gives no guarantees to the taxpayers. It's a huge tax increase across the board. And those same folks, proponents on that other side of the aisle in the governor's office, say that this is going to be a tax savings for low-income families and working middle class. But I fail to see how that will happen when we look at billions upon billions of other dollars that are being proposed in additional taxation in a regressive manner, everywhere from a gas tax to a streaming tax to taxing this, beer or wine, everything. Look at all the additional taxes that will affect people of all incomes. You're not saving anybody any taxes. You are charging each and every Illinois resident more tax. Sure, the wealthiest will pay more than that, but there's no cost savings. So please, when you're arguing this, please don't argue that there's going to be savings or people's taxes will be held neutral, because that's the furthest thing from the truth. I please ask for a no vote on this.